Ladies and gentlemen, here to tell you their story, please join me with welcoming Nikki McCarthy.
Okay, thank you, and good evening. This is really a lovely event. I want to thank the Hospital Association leadership and staff, Mike Abrams, Scott Borgamenke, Mary Gallagher, John Palmer, Sean McGlone, Kate Huffman, Caitlin Bowling, our friends from the Children's Hospital world like Nick Lashetka, Melissa Saladonis, Vicki Jambrone, and Charlie Solly, as well as the many friends and family and Sam's fans we have in the audience who've been instrumental in helping us get to where we are today. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about Sam's fans, but also the chance to say thank you to the many hospital professionals who have touched our lives and all of our family's life. Congratulations to all of the nominees tonight for Hospital Employee of the Year Award. With all due respect to our doctor friends in the audience, who often get most of the attention, we know who does most of the work and makes the hospital go. Sometimes it is the people without an MD after their name that make the whole thing come together, and it is great for them to be recognized tonight, so thank you. During Sam's time in the hospital, we came across hundreds of people, some that we knew and some we didn't, who made her stay and her life better. We're truly honored that you asked us to share this night with you, and we can't say thank you enough. Every story about a hospital stay is unique, with the exception of one common thing. The body isn't working the way it should be. For us, it started with a phone call, and then visits to Nationwide Children's Hospital, the Cleveland Clinic, and then Cincinnati Children's Hospital. In November of 2004, our oldest and only daughter, Samantha Jane, was diagnosed with aplastic anemia. To say that our world was rocked would be an understatement. We were in the midst of buying a new home. It was the week of Thanksgiving. We had 3 young, beautiful children who were keeping us very busy. Our life was good. It was actually great. Within a few weeks, the news became even more grave when Sam was diagnosed with a rare, fatal disease called Fanconi anemia. Typically, when I give or talk to people, they don't know what that is, but I'm sure there's a number of you in the crowd that do actually know. But it's not good news. In fact, it was earth-shattering for us. We went to Cincinnati Children's, which fortunately for us had a comprehensive care center that specialized in treating kids with FA. The first person we met there was named Robin Mueller. Robin and the staff took us by the hand, and they were the first people that told us, it's going to be okay. We're going to take care of you, and we're going to take care of your girl. And they did that. They introduced us to the doctors who would care for Sam, and they coordinated all of that care, starting with scheduling quarterly visits where Sam would see a multitude of specialists that would monitor her from top to bottom and inside and out. Our visits there became fun and not usually too scary. One of the first things they provided with was a way for us to help others by offering to include us in some clinical trials. Looking back, the sense of empowerment that it gave her was a catalyst for what was to come. One particular clinical trial called for weekly blood draws, which we did for probably a year or longer. Every Friday morning, we would put on our numbing cream, pack our school bag, and head to Nationwide Children's Hospital outpatient clinic. And there we would see Miss Maureen, who would do Sam's blood draw, never counting, just doing it, and she let her choose her Band-Aid. Maureen would get Sam's weekly blood counts, and we'd be on our way to school. Maureen and Robin would coordinate, and we would get our results for the weekend, and all would be well for the most part. I remember Sam telling me at one point that it gave her a really good feeling for the weekend to know what was happening, even if the results weren't going to be perfect. She had some type of control of the situation, and that was very important to her. In the summer of 2008, after the 4th grade, we were told that it was time for Sam to have her transplant. We checked into Cincinnati Children's August 1st, 2008, for 30 days straight. On August 8th, after 7 days of intense chemotherapy and radiation to kill all of her blood cells, Carrie, her favorite nurse, injected what was to be her life-saving transplant of new healthy donor cells. Throughout the next few weeks, we watched Sam get very sick, and then she got better. At rounds every day, our nurse practitioner, Zach, would give us the updates and go over each and every number in as little or as much detail as we wanted and needed. Zach was our translator for all intents and purposes, and he was basically our link to the doctors who we saw a little bit more infrequently. Every couple of hours, nurses, therapists, nurse practitioner, PCA, doctor, housekeeping, every person you can imagine would come in, check this and that, give medications, fluids, and so on. They all knew about Sam's 3 brothers, Finn, Joe, and Jackie, who was little at the time. They talked to them on the iChat because that is usually what Sam was doing. They knew stories of her friends and the boys that she liked. One particular day, Sam was talking about a certain friend while she was getting her blood pressure taken, and we had to laugh when the nurse called her out because her heart rate was going up a little too high while she talked about her friend, Jake. Brenda never let her live that down. In short, the nurses became like our family. Months passed, we had our ups and downs. Finally, a little over the 100-day mark, we went back home to Columbus in November of 2008. Ironically, it was the week of Thanksgiving, and we celebrated as a family. We drove back and forth sometimes more than once a week for appointments for a good solid 6 months. Unfortunately, we were back in Cincinnati more regularly in the early spring and summer of 2009 due to some more serious complications and infections. One of Sam's nurses was even there when she virtually graduated from 5th grade over iChat. Again, just like family. Sam's conditions worsened due to these complications, and in August of 2009, we came back to Columbus for good. It was time, and we needed to be close to our family and our friends and the support that we would need for the rest of this journey. I came to Nationwide Children's with a very large chip on my shoulder. It had been a long, long year. I thought that I knew everything that Sam needed, and I was planning to call all the shots. The staff was very patient with me. And with Sam, I could not have been easy, and she was very, very sick. They did everything that we asked, and they took care of her as best they could, giving her everything she needed and then more. I can't imagine what it was like to watch a parent fighting for their child who is willing to do whatever it takes and go between carrying out those wishes and knowing that things might not and probably will not get better. I don't know how you all do it. I suppose it's because sometimes it works. We also spent some very significant and very scary time in the intensive care unit, and I will always remember the sweet nurse who cared for both of us for over a week. I also remember the crazy respiratory therapist, who I think was named Randy, but I can't remember that far back. He rode a really fast motorcycle without a helmet, and he told me that when it was his time, and that's how he lived. He pushed Sam to the limits, and he got that tube out. And the way he transitioned from crazy motorcycle guy with tattoos and spiked hair to sensitive yet encouraging pediatric respiratory therapist still amazes me. October 15th, 2009, Sam passed away. I wish I could remember the name of the nurse who was with us for that whole day and night, but I can see her face very clearly. I am not sure she ever went home until we went home that night. She cried with us, and she told me how much of an impact Sam made on her life. A few days later, when we buried our sweet girl, I looked over my shoulder in Mass and saw 2 of my favorite nurses from Cincinnati Children's in our church. They came to my house for the wake, and they stayed all day. In fact, I found them in my kitchen late that night doing dishes. Over the next 8.5 years, I stayed in touch with some of them. I hope no one from HIPAA is here. Watching them have and raise their children, they had such an impact on my life that I can't meet a nurse or a therapist without wanting to reach out and hug them. Not just nurses, but anyone who puts their needs aside for 10 and 12-hour shifts, especially at night, when they have to do hard things without trying to wake up parents who get little to no sleep. It's all of the people in this room who give so selflessly, from the doctor who does the brain surgery to the PCA who changes the sheets. Each of you we're grateful for. During the 8 or so years after we lost Sam, we made a promise to our 3 sons that after losing their sister, they were not going to lose their whole family. And we were going to work hard to make sure that we made it through this worst loss all together. So far, so good. We just had our oldest graduate from high school last week, and he's preparing to go to Arizona State. The second boy is going to St. Charles in the fall as a freshman, and Jackie just turned 11, who's the same age as Sam was when she passed away. We continued to raise money for the Fanconi Anemia Research Fund, but we realized it was more important for us to be involved in the life of the hospital rather than the life of a laboratory. We have some very dear friends that paved the way for us and many others and helped us navigate our years of Fanconi anemia and after that. It was Lori Strongen and Alan Goldberg that showed us that it was okay to be happy and helped us realize that it made sense for us to focus on something that made Sam happy and made her feel good and us feel good. For us, that was music therapy. Sam was very sick for most of those 14 months, and from the time we checked into the hospital to the time we walked out without her. During that time, music and music therapy was part of most of those days in one way or another. She had 2 things at all times. One was her phone, and one was her iPod. And this was like 10 years ago, so those were 2 separate things. When she needed to escape, it was music. When she was happy, music. And when she may have been sad or angry, which happened frequently, there was music. She played the piano and she loved to write. In fact, I think she would have been a great songwriter. As I said, Sam loved all the staff at the hospital, but her most favorite person was a guy named Brian Schreck, who you saw in the video there. He's in a different hospital now, but he was famous back then at Cincinnati Children's with his cart full of instruments that he pushed around and the guitar that he carried on his back. He couldn't get very far without a parent or a child peeking their head out of their room and asking, "Can you stop by my room today?" If anyone could be cloned, it needed to be him. He was wonderful at his job, and that was for sure. As he said, music therapy is defined as the evidence-based practice of using musical interventions to accomplish non-musical goals in a therapeutic setting. Basically, what that means is they use music and art to do things like reduce stress, promote wellness, express feelings, and enhance memory. In short, it makes hard things a little bit easier. Music and art therapists come into the room, and they're one of the few people that ask the kids to do something, but actually ask what they want to do, and empower them to take part in their care or just have a good time. That was our experience. What we also knew was we wanted to bring that same feeling of joy and happiness that we got from a very special music therapist to as many kids as we could. And that would be our way of carrying on Sam's legacy in a life that was cut much too short. With the support of many friends and family, many of whom are in this room tonight, in May of 2015, we were officially declared a 501c3. To date, we have raised upwards of $400,000 and hope to raise $500,000 by the end of this year. And we've distributed funds to 4 Ohio hospitals and 2 camps for sick kids. Not only that, but we're also funding a music therapy scholarship at Ohio University, and we recently hired our very first official operating director who gets paid, and that is not me. Our programs include the outpatient music therapist that you saw. In the 3 years, she has seen more than 29 families on a consistent basis and works with those patients and families through diagnosis, illness, and sometimes bereavement. In Cincinnati, we are providing funding for a part-time art therapist on the BMT unit, and we've helped start a brand new program in Dayton where they had no music therapy. And we also fund an artist in residence program at Akron Children's that allows for community artists to spend time in the hospital with patients and staff. We have provided hundreds of musical instruments and art supplies to our hospitals through donation drives around Sam's birthday and Christmas. We are educating and bringing awareness to our community about the importance of music and art therapy, and we get to share the story that, while did not have the best ending, has become a way to create a legacy for our daughter and to keep her in our lives as best as we can. What you all do is incredibly hard work, and I'm sure that some days it can feel like a grind. We're here to tell you, however, that a kind word or a smile from you, or a little extra numbing cream before a blood draw, or a song sung softly doesn't just make a patient's day a little better. It can change a life, and as a result, many others' lives. Congratulations to all the nominees. Thank you for letting us be here tonight, and thank you to all the people in this room who have been with us on Sam's journey. We love you. Thank you.